That afternoon, Alex arrived with Ava on his arm. She was beautiful, there was no denying it. Her blonde hair was perfectly styled, and her dress was elegant in a way that seemed calculated to impress. But her smile didn't reach her eyes. They were like two chips of blue ice, scanning my living room, assessing the value of the furniture, the sentimentality of the photos, the simplicity of my life. "Mom, this is Ava," Alex said, his voice carrying a note of hopeful pride I hadn't heard in years. "Ava, my mother, Betty." "Mrs. Williams, it's such a pleasure," Ava said, her voice smooth as polished glass. She extended a hand, her grip cool and brief. "Alex talks about you all the time." "The pleasure is mine," I replied, the practiced words tasting like dust. "Please, sit down." I made lemonade. As I poured, I watched her. She perched on the edge of the sofa, back straight, accepting the glass without taking her eyes off Alex. Her questions were polite but hollow. "How long have you lived here? The garden is quaint. Alex says you're very involved with Leo." She said Leo's name like it was a foreign object in her mouth. Leo, my sweet boy, was hiding behind my skirts in the kitchen doorway. He didn't run out to greet his father as he usually did. "Ava's an interior designer," Alex was saying, a touch of awe in his voice. "She's got amazing plans for the house. It's been stuck in time, you know? She's going to bring it back to life." A house is brought to life by the people in it, not the furniture, I thought, but I held my tongue. I saw the way Ava's gaze flickered over the framed photo of Maria on the mantel, a slight, almost imperceptible tightening at the corner of her mouth before she looked away. The visit was short, stilted. After they left, the air in the room felt thin and used up. Leo crept out and climbed into my lap, a rare thing for my growing boy. "I don't like her, Grandma," he whispered into my neck. "Why not, my love? She smells scary." Children sense things. Their instincts are pure, unclouded by social pretense. A cold dread, deeper than my initial unease, began to solidify in my stomach. This wasn't just a mother's reluctance to see her son move on. This was a primal warning. The courtship was a whirlwind. 6 months later, Alex announced the engagement. Lucy took the news quietly, her cheerful demeanor dimming. She threw herself into caring for Leo even more, as if building a fortress of love around him. I tried to talk to Alex, just once, to urge caution. "She's not Maria, Mom," he'd said sharply, his eyes wounded. "I know that. But I deserve a chance to be happy again. Ava makes me feel alive. She wants a fresh start. She wants us to be a family." "But you already are a family," I wanted to scream. "You have Leo. You have me. You have Lucy." But the word fresh start hung in the air, and I understood its terrible implication. A fresh start meant leaving the past behind. And Leo was the living, breathing heart of that past. The wedding planning was entirely Ava's domain. Lavish, expensive, impersonal. I was given a dress to wear and a table assignment. Table 8. With Leo. Isolated from the main family table. At the time, I'd thought it was an oversight, a bride overwhelmed. Now, holding that monstrous note, I saw it for what it was. A strategic placement. Back in the present, in the suffocating silence of the ballroom noise, I moved. My grandmotherly love hardened into a steely resolve. I didn't scream. I didn't confront. I simply took Leo's hand, folded the note into my clutch, and walked calmly but swiftly towards the exit. "Betty, is everything all right?" a guest called. "Leo's a bit overwhelmed by the noise," I said, my voice miraculously steady. "Some fresh air." We passed the kitchen doors, swinging open as waiters burst forth with trays. My eyes locked with a harried-looking chef for a split second. I kept walking. Outside, the cool night air hid us. I knelt before Leo, my hands on his small shoulders. "Leo, listen to me. Who put the paper under the table? Did you see?" He was crying silent tears now, shaking his head. "I didn't see. I was playing. I looked down and it was just there. But Grandma, before, when I was getting cake, the lady in the white dress, she was near our table. She looked at my plate. The lady in the white dress? Ava. No, he sniffled. Not the bride. The other one. The one who helps Daddy sometimes. With the pretty red hair. My blood ran colder than the night air. Lucy. The adopted daughter with the warm heart. The one who looked at Alex with something more than a sister's affection. The one who loved Leo, or so I had believed. But love can curdle into possession. And if she saw Ava not just as an interloper in Alex's life, but as a threat to her own place, to her connection with Leo, what might she do? Frame the new bride for an unspeakable act on her wedding day? Remove Leo, the last piece of Maria, to make Alex wholly dependent on her again? The motive was twisted, but it fit like a shard of broken glass. Or was it Ava, infinitely more calculating, making it look like someone else? The note was at her own wedding. A bold, psychopathic move. I stood up, my legs trembling not from fear, but from a roaring, silent fury. I pulled out my phone. I didn't call Alex, still blissfully ignorant inside his glittering nightmare. I called the one person I knew would act without question, the one whose instinct was to protect above all else. The phone rang once, twice. Hello. A familiar, steady voice answered. Lucy, I said, my voice low and deadly calm. I need you. Now. Something has happened. It's about Leo. I watched the ballroom doors, a gilded frame around a scene of false happiness. I would let the wedding continue. Let the villain believe they were safe, that their plan had failed quietly. Because the greatest revenge isn't a loud scene. It's the patient, meticulous gathering of truth. It's letting them hang themselves with the rope of their own malice. And as I stood there in the dark, holding my grandson, I made a silent promise to Maria, to Alex, and to Leo. I would find out who wrote that note. And I would make sure they never, ever got close to my family again. All those loose pieces, all those little signs. I had seen them, but I had chosen to ignore them. And so the day of my son's wedding arrived. That afternoon, the golden sun of Florida streamed through the large windows, bathing the ballroom in a radiant light, as if wanting to celebrate my son's happy day. I was sitting at table number 8 next to my grandson, Leo, and Lucy. Lucy was a quiet anchor beside me. She kept glancing at Leo, her eyes soft with a worry that mirrored my own. She would gently straighten his bow tie or push his glass of milk closer, small gestures of a love that was pure and unchanging. Across the room, at the head table, Alex beamed. Ava was a vision in white, her smile locked in place, accepting toasts with a graceful tilt of her head. To anyone else, it was a picture of bliss. But at our table, a storm was brewing in silence. Leo pushed his red car, his little body rigid. He hadn't touched his special child's plate. When the waiter brought the first course, a delicate salad, Leo looked at it like it was a trap. "Grandma," he whispered, his voice barely a breath. "My tummy feels funny." "Just nerves, my love," I said, but my own stomach was a knot of dread. It was then, during the main course, that Leo grabbed my hand with his ice-cold fingers and uttered those fateful words. "Grandma, I want to leave right now." And then, the note. Table 8, add shrimp to the child serving. The world narrowed to those words. The laughter around us became a muff roar, the candlelight a hostile glare. In that instant, every doubt, every sidelong glance from Leo, every forced smile from Ava, crystallized into a terrible certainty. This was not an accident. This was not a kitchen error. This was an attempt. My mind raced, playing back the last hour. The waiters bustling. Ava, circulating among the guests before sitting down. Lucy, who had excused herself to fix her makeup, just before the meal was served. Lucy. Leo had said a lady with pretty red hair was near our table. Lucy. But Ava had the motive. She wanted the fresh start. A child with a severe allergy was a complication. A tragic accident at a crowded wedding. Unthinkable, but convenient. I looked from the gleaming head table to Lucy's pale, concerned face beside me. In that moment, I couldn't trust anyone but myself and the trembling boy in my care. I did not scream. I did not march to the head table and slap the smile from Ava's face, though every fiber of my being screamed to do so. That would be a scene. That would be chaos. And in chaos, evidence disappears, lies are spun, and predators escape. No. My revenge would not be hot. It would be cold. Calculated. It would be the absolute, undeniable truth. I squeezed Leo's hand, folded the note into my clutch with deliberate calm, and stood. Some fresh air for Leo, I said to Lucy, my voice surprisingly steady. It's all a bit much. Lucy nodded, her eyes wide with unasked questions. Do you want me to come? No, stay. Enjoy. Watch them, I thought. Watch them both. Outside, under the velvet sky, I made the call. Not to Alex, lost in his dream. Not to the police, not yet. I called Lucy. Lucy, I said, my voice low. I need you. Now. It's about Leo. I chose my words carefully. I didn't accuse. I summoned. I made her the ally, the confidant. If she was guilty, this would flush her out. If she was innocent, she was my greatest weapon. While I waited, I knelt before Leo. The paper, my heart. Did you see anything else? Anything at all? He was crying now, silent tears cutting through the dusting of freckles on his cheeks. The lady, the red-hair lady, she was crying by the flowers. Before she came to the table. Crying. Lucy was crying? Why? Before I could process it, Lucy rushed out the side door of the venue, her emerald green dress a streak of panic in the night. Betty. What's wrong? Is Leo okay? I held up the note. In the dim patio light, I watched her face as she read it. Her reaction was instantaneous, visceral. Her hand flew to her mouth, her eyes flooded with fresh tears, and a raw, guttural sound of horror escaped her lips. It was not the reaction of a conspirator caught. It was the reaction of a protector confronted with pure evil. Oh my God. Leo. She sank to her knees and pulled Leo into a fierce, trembling hug. Who would? Betty, we have to tell Alex. We have to stop the kitchen. Not yet, I said, the steel in my voice making her look up. If we cause a scene, they'll deny it. It'll be a tragic misunderstanding. A miscommunication with the staff. Ava will weep and Alex will comfort her. We need proof. We need to know who gave this order. Lucy stared at me, her initial panic solidifying into a determined fury. I saw it then, the fierce love she had for this boy. This was not her doing. Then we find it, she whispered, her voice cold. What do we do? A plan, sharp and clear, formed in my mind. The wedding was still in full swing. The cake was yet to be cut. The villain, whoever they were, believed their plan had merely fizzled, a missed opportunity. They would be off guard. Take Leo to my car, I instructed Lucy. Stay with him. Lock the doors. Do not let anyone near him. Not Alex, not Ava, not a friendly waiter. No one. Do you understand? She nodded, a soldier receiving orders. I said, smoothing my dress and fixing a calm, grandmotherly smile on my face. I'm going back inside. I'm going to find the head of catering. And I'm going to have a little chat. I turned and walked back towards the glittering ballroom, the sounds of jazz and laughter swelling to meet me. The warm night air no longer felt peaceful. It felt like the calm before the storm. My heart was no longer aching with worry. It was beating a steady, powerful rhythm of wrath. The game was on. And I was no longer just Betty Williams, the gentle grandmother. I was the reckoning. I don't know her name, ma'am, David stammered, his eyes darting around as if looking for an escape route. She was a guest. She said it was a special dietary request for the child at table 8. She seemed in a hurry. My mind raced, painting a picture. A woman. A guest. Someone who knew the table number. Someone who knew about Leo's allergy. Describe her, I demanded, my voice low and urgent, cutting through the distant jazz melody. David swallowed, his Adam's apple bobbing. She was pretty. Blonde hair, I think. Or light brown. It's all a blur. I was so busy. She was wearing a blue dress? Or maybe green. He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. I'm sorry, there are so many people. A blonde. Ava was blonde. But so were half the women here. A blue or green dress narrowed it down, but not enough. My initial suspicion for Ava burned brighter, but Lucy's earlier distress, her tears by the flowers. Could it have been an act? A performance to throw off suspicion? The doubt was a poison in my veins. Think. I pressed, leaning closer. Her voice. Her manner. Anything. His eyes widened as a memory surfaced. She had a very sweet voice. But it sounded, I don't know, tight. Like she was forcing it. And her hand. When she gave me the note, her nails were painted red. A bright red. I remember because she tapped the paper with one finger, like this. He demonstrated a sharp, impatient tap. Red nails. I flashed back to Ava's first visit to my home, her lips painted a soft red. Tonight, her manicure was a classic French tip, elegant, understated. No bright red polish. But Lucy wore little nail polish. Tonight, her nails were bare. A cold, sick feeling began to uncoil in my stomach. What if it wasn't about the color of the dress, but the act itself? What if David was confused, or worse, lying? Just then, a smooth, concerned voice cut through our tense huddle. Betty. Is everything all right? You look upset. I turned. Ava stood there, a vision in white, her head tilted in a perfect mimicry of concern. Her eyes, however, were sharp, scanning my face, then dropping to the crumpled note in my hand. She had approached without a sound. My entire body went rigid. Instinctively, I closed my fist around the paper, hiding it. It's nothing, Ava. Just a misunderstanding with the service. Leo's plate had something he's allergic to. Her perfectly sculpted eyebrows arched. Oh, how dreadful. Is he all right? The kitchen should be more careful. She placed a hand on my arm, her touch cool through the fabric of my sleeve. Let me go and give them a piece of my mind. This is unacceptable on our day. Her performance was flawless. The worried new mother, the indignant bride. But I saw the way her gaze lingered on my clenched fist for a fraction of a second too long. I've already handled it, I said, my voice miraculously steady. No need to trouble yourself. You should be enjoying your party. A flicker of something. Annoyance? Suspicion? Crossed her features before the smile snapped back into place. If you're sure. She gave my arm a final, patronizing pat. We must get a family photo soon. All of us. Including Leo. She said his name like it was a prop on a checklist. As she glided away, I felt a wave of pure, undiluted hatred. It was her. It had to be. The sweet, tight voice. The calculated move. She wanted the photo, but she'd tried to remove the boy from it first. David the waiter had slipped away during the exchange, melting back into the staff. I was alone in the hallway, the sounds of celebration a mocking soundtrack. I needed air. I needed to think. I pushed open a heavy side door and stepped into a secluded courtyard garden, lit by strings of fairy lights. I took deep, shuddering breaths, the paper damp in my sweaty palm. Betty. I whirled around. Lucy stood in the doorway, her face pale in the soft light. She had followed me. Leo's with the band manager's wife, a nice lady. He's coloring, she said quickly, stepping closer. What did you find out? I opened my hand, revealing the note. A waiter. A woman gave it to him. Blonde, maybe. Red nails. Lucy's eyes went wide. Red nails? Ava doesn't have red nails tonight. I know, I said, watching her closely. But Lucy's voice caught. She looked down at her own hands, then back at me, her expression crumbling into one of horrified understanding. You think it was me? It wasn't a question. The accusation hung in the air between us. The fairy lights twinkled, absurdly cheerful. I don't know what to think, Lucy, I said, my voice weary. Leo said he saw you crying by the flowers before the meal. Why? Tears welled in her eyes, but they were tears of anger now, not fear. I was crying because I saw her, Betty. I saw Ava corner that young waiter near the kitchen doors before we sat down. She was talking to him, very close, handing him something. She had her back to me, but I saw him nod. He looked nervous. When she walked away, she had this smirk on her face. It made my blood run cold. I came back to the table to warn you, but you and Leo were talking, and then, everything happened. Her story rang with a raw, desperate truth. The pieces shifted again, clicking into a new, even more terrifying configuration. Ava had given the note. But she was smart. She wouldn't use her own distinctive French tip nails. She would have worn gloves, or she could have asked someone else to deliver it. Someone with red nails. Lucy, I said, a new idea dawning, icy and clear. The note. It's an instruction to the kitchen. But who would the kitchen listen to? A random guest? Or? I thought of Ava's impeccable, controlling nature. Or the bride herself, or someone officially connected to the wedding. The wedding planner, Lucy breathed. Or the caterer's point of contact. I remembered Ava insisting on handling all the wedding details herself, shutting Alex and everyone else out. She had chosen the caterer. She was their primary contact. We need to find the head caterer. Now, I said. We moved as one, two women united by a single purpose. Protecting Leo. We slipped back inside, avoiding the main ballroom, and headed towards the bustling kitchen. The noise and heat hit us like a wall. Amidst the chaos, we found a stern-looking woman in a black suit, a headset on her ear, barking orders. Susan Kowalski, head of catering, her badge red. I didn't bother with pleasantries. I held up the note. Ms. Kowalski. This note was given to one of your waiters, David, with instructions to add shrimp to a child's meal at table 8. That child has a lethal shellfish allergy. Who authorized this? Susan's face went from harried to ashen. She snatched the note, her eyes scanning it. This wasn't on the dietary sheet. I have no record of this. She looked up, her gaze sharpening. David, get over here. The young waiter appeared, looking like he wanted to vanish into the floor tiles. Susan brandished the note. Who gave you this? The truth now. David pointed a trembling finger past us, into the shadowy hallway behind the kitchen doors. Her. The lady in the dark green dress. The one with the clipboard. She said she was with the bride's party, handling special requests. Lucy and I turned. Standing there, frozen in the act of trying to slip away, was a woman I vaguely recognized from Ava's office holiday party. She was Ava's personal assistant. A mousy woman normally, now dressed in a sleek dark green dress. And on her hands, perfectly manicured and gleaming under the fluorescent lights, was a bright, shocking red polish. The assistant saw our faces, saw Susan the caterer bearing down on her, and panic flashed in her eyes. She dropped her clipboard and bolted. But Lucy was faster. She moved with a speed I didn't know she possessed, cutting off the woman's escape route toward the service elevator. Call the police, Susan, I said, my voice quiet with finality. And someone please get my son, Alex. Tell him he needs to come to the kitchen. Immediately. The game was over. The mask was off. Now, it was time for the reckoning to begin. And it would start with watching the color drain from his new wife's face when her carefully constructed world fell apart, piece by bloody piece. The silence that followed Lucy's challenge was heavier than any noise. It was the sound of a dream imploding. All the false joy, the carefully curated elegance of the wedding, evaporated, leaving behind the raw, ugly truth laid bare on the ballroom floor. Ava didn't look at the cameras. She didn't look at Alex. Her gaze was fixed on a point on the wall, her face a frozen mask of defeat. That empty stare was more damning than any scream. She had been cornered, not by a detective, but by the very family she had sought to destroy. A frightened child, a loyal sister turned accuser, a furious aunt, and a grandmother with fire in her veins. Alex's hand on Leo's shoulder tightened, then fell away as if burned. He looked from his son's terrified face to his new wife's stony profile. The radiant groom was gone. In his place stood a man whose world had just been split in two. "Leo," Alex whispered, his voice cracking. He crouched down, ignoring the hundreds of eyes upon them. "My boy, is this true? Were you scared?" Leo, emboldened by the protective circle of his grandmother and Lucy, gave a tiny, definitive nod. He pointed a small finger at Ava. "She smells scary," he repeated his childhood truth. A simple verdict that cut through all the adult complexity. That was it for Alex. He stood up, his body rigid. He turned to Ava, and the look on his face was not just anger, but a profound, sickened betrayal. "Get out," he said, his voice low and ragged. "Get out of here. Now." Ava finally moved. She blinked, the spell broken. The mask didn't crumble into tears. It hardened into something cold and defiant. "You're choosing them," she spat, her sweet voice now a venomous hiss. "After everything I've done for you? To make you happy again. You tried to murder my son." Alex roared, the sound echoing in the hushed room. The finality of the word murder made several guests gasp. Ava didn't deny it again. She just looked at him with utter contempt, gathered the pristine white skirts of her wedding dress as if they were contaminated, and began to walk toward the exit. The crowd parted for her like the Red Sea, a tunnel of averted eyes and shocked whispers. She didn't run. She walked with a chilling, arrogant slowness, her head held high until she disappeared through the ballroom doors. The spell broke into chaotic noise. Guests erupted into horrified conversation. Relatives rushed toward Alex, toward me, toward Leo. The wedding was over. But my work was not. In the days that followed, there was the expected turmoil. Police reports. Statements. Gloria, racked with guilt, provided a full account. Ava had given her the folded note, told her it was a special surprise for Leo, and instructed her to give it to a specific waiter. The security footage, when reviewed, showed the brief, damning exchange. Alex was shattered. He moved back into his old house, a ghost of himself. The guilt nearly consumed him. For not seeing, for not listening, for bringing that viper into our nest. Lucy and I became a united front, managing the practicalities and holding him together, our own past tensions dissolved in the face of a common enemy. Ava was charged with attempted grievous bodily harm and conspiracy. She posted bail, of course. She gave tearful interviews to anyone who would listen, painting herself as the victim of a jealous family who couldn't accept her. She was fighting it. And that's when my true purpose crystallized. Legal justice was slow, uncertain. It would argue over intent and evidence. It would not heal Leo's nightmares or Alex's guilt. It would not give Maria back to us. Ava had tried to steal my family's future. So I would dismantle hers. This wasn't about anger anymore. Anger is hot and impulsive. What I felt was colder, more precise. It was a vow. I started small, with the tools of a grandmother, observation and connection. I reached out to the few of Ava's former friends who had seemed uneasy at the wedding. Over tea, I didn't accuse. I shared my story. I showed them the copy of the note. I let them hear the confusion in Gloria's voice on a recorded clip, made with her permission. The truth, presented quietly, is a powerful solvent. Friendships quietly evaporated. I learned everything about her. Her job in marketing. Her wealthy, image-obsessed parents. Her secret debts hidden from Alex. I discovered the boutique where she had bought her wedding dress on credit and anonymously paid off the balance, then informed the owner of the reason for the wedding's cancellation. The dress was permanently taken off the mannequin. Then, I went digital. Lucy helped me. We didn't post wild accusations. We created a simple, elegant channel. The first video was just me, Betty Williams, in my quiet living room, with a single family photo of Maria, Alex, and Leo in the background. "Hello," I said to the camera, my voice calm and clear. "My name is Betty Williams. If you're watching this, you might know me as the mother of the groom from the wedding poisoning case in the news. The legal system is handling that. But this channel isn't about the court case. This is the story of a family, a little boy, and the day a woman tried to erase him from his own father's life. This is my story of vigilance. This is my story of protection. I didn't rant. I narrated. I told the story you just heard. From Leo's first whisper of fear to the crumpled note, from David the waiter's panic to Gloria's tearful confession. I spoke of Maria, of loss, of the fragile hope of a new beginning, and of the snake that slithered into our garden. The video spread. Not virally, but steadily. To true crime communities, to parenting forums, to local news commentators. People were captivated by the quiet grandmother telling a tale of horror in a steady voice. They heard the love for Leo in every word. They felt the chill of Ava's calculation. This is my revenge. It is not a knife in the dark. It is a light shown in every corner of her life. It is the truth, told relentlessly and without malice, so that wherever she goes, a new city, a new job, a new relationship, someone will recognize her. Someone will have seen the video. They will look at her perfectly manicured hands and remember the note they once held. Ava's lawyers are furious. They call it defamation. I call it testimony. I am not accusing. I am recounting. And every like, every subscribe, every comment from someone in Paris, or Mumbai, or Sydney saying, "I'm watching your story, Betty. Leo is safe now," is a stone added to the wall that will forever separate her from the normal life she craves. Alex is healing slowly by focusing on Leo. Lucy is our rock. And Leo. He sleeps through the night now. Sometimes he still climbs into my lap and asks for a story. But now, instead of stories about his mother, he sometimes asks, "Grandma, tell the story about how you were brave at the wedding." And I tell him how love is not just softness. It is also a shield. It is also a sword. It is the unwavering will to stand between your child and the darkness, and to make sure that darkness never forgets your name. So, if you're watching this video, please like, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments where you're listening to my story of revenge from. I want to know how far the light has reached. Because my revenge is not her punishment. My revenge is making sure the world sees her for what she is. And my revenge is knowing that my grandson can look at a plate of food without fear. And that is a victory no court can ever give me. His voice broke as if he were trying to cling to hope, but his gaze, moving from the paper to Leo, said it all. I saw his heart break. What happened after Ava was led away is both a private healing and a public reckoning. That night, the wedding ended not with a kiss, but with a silence louder than any music. In the days that followed, my family was caught in a whirlwind of pain. Alex became a ghost, haunted by his own trust. But in that darkness, the true pillars of our family held firm. I cared for Leo, but it was Lucy who truly healed his soul. She became his anchor, preparing his safe lunches, flying kites with him in the park, sitting through his fevers with stories of brave sparrows. I watched from the doorway one night, and I saw Alex watching her too. His gaze was no longer distant. It was full of a dawning, awestruck gratitude. One night at dinner, Leo looked up with his clear eyes and said, "I want Aunt Lucy to be my mommy." The table fell silent. Lucy blushed. Alex's eyes filled with tears. In that moment, the toxic wind of Ava's presence was finally swept away for good, replaced by the pure, solid truth of Lucy's love. Time passed. Ava was charged, of course. The legal wheels turned slowly. But I realized the courts could only punish her. They could not give us our peace. They could not ensure she would never harm another family. So, I found my revenge. It is not in hatred. It is in truth. I began this channel. I sat in my living room, with Maria's photo behind me, and I told our story. Not with rage, but with the calm clarity of a grandmother who has stared into the abyss and protected her own. I narrated every detail, from Leo's first whisper of fear to the crumpled note, from Gloria's confession to Ava's silent defeat. This is my revenge. My revenge is knowing that wherever Ava goes, a new city, a new job, a new relationship, someone might recognize her. They will have seen this video. They will hear her sweet, tight voice in their mind when she speaks. They will look at her hands and wonder. I have taken away her ability to hide in the shadows of a new life. I have turned her into a cautionary tale. My revenge is also this. While I tell this story to the world, my family has built a fortress of love. Alex, his eyes clear of their old ghosts, finally saw the woman who had been there all along. He took Lucy's hand, not with the blind passion of his youth, but with the profound certainty of a man who has learned the hard cost of true love. They are building a life, a real one, rooted in trust and the shared mission of keeping Leo safe and joyful. Leo runs in the yard, his laughter echoing again, the red toy car a relic of a bad dream he's slowly forgetting. So when I ask you to like, subscribe, and tell me where you're watching from, it is not for fame. It is a map. I am charting the reach of this truth. Every view is a stone in the wall that protects others. Every comment from across the world is a message that says, we see her. We know. The story you have just heard. It is ours. The names are changed to protect my family's peace, but the truth of it is absolute. I tell it not to dwell in the past, but to solidify our future. I tell it so that if you are a mother, a grandmother, a sister, or simply a person who feels a cold unease in your own home, you will listen to that feeling. You will look under the table. You will find your voice. My revenge is a thriving family and a story that can never be erased. God bless you. And remember, courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision that love is worth protecting, no matter the cost. Now on the final screen, I'll leave you two other stories from this channel. Tales of quiet vigilance and powerful love. I think you'll find strength in them. Thank you for listening. Thank you for helping this light reach farther.